So you can see we are talking about existential counseling, and Rollo May and Viktor Frankl are some of the key proponents of existential counseling. Of course, in philosophy, we have existentialism that we've had that video hint that we've already gone through it philosophically, but for now we are dealing with counseling itself. So existential view of nature. Of course, existentialism is from the English word or English phrase existence, how we exist. Let us view the existentialists' view of human nature. Existential counseling's view of human nature. One, or A, existentialists believe that the individual writes their own life story by the choices that they make. You see, it's all about existence. This school of thought in counseling therapy, existential therapy or existential counseling, you can see how these vocabularies are interchangeably used. Existential counseling or existential therapy. So existentialism is all about the belief that the individual writes their own life story by their choices that they make. So the choices we make, it's a beginning point, it's a starting point. Now, psychopathology is defined by existentialists as neglecting to make meaningful choices and accentuating one's potential. Anxiety is seen as the motivational force that helps the clients to reach their potential. Conversely, anxiety is also seen as a paralyzing force that prevents clients from reaching their full potential. Therefore, through awareness, this anxiety can be helpful in living more fully. This scholar, Frankl, shares that or contends that each person searches for meaning in life, and that while this meaning may change, the meaning never ceases to be. According to Frankl, life's meaning can be discovered in three ways. One, by doing a deed, that is accomplishments or achievements. Two, by experiencing a value, that is beauty, love, nature, and arts. Three, by suffering. Okay? And by suffering, it means reconciling ourselves to fate. So you can see how existentialists view human nature, that our choice matters a lot. So this is a kind of counseling that argues that existential, that what you do today matters a lot. It is like telling you you have a solution to how you live, how you work out your stresses, your straining or your disorders. It's rangery, if not hurry, your own making. You have a contribution to make in ensuring that things work out. So the meaning of life can only be discovered by doing, by experiencing, and by suffering. Okay? Suffering is to face reality, however painful. Okay? And in a sense, reconciling yourself to the fate. So for the existentialists, counselors or therapists, the role of a counselor can be seen as threefold. One, each client is considered unique. Each client is considered a unique relationship with the counselor, focusing on being authentic with the client and entering into a deep personal sharing relationship. So you are unique because you exist uniquely. In other words, you live uniquely. Number B, the counselor models how to be authentic or genuine. Authentic, of course, means genuine. So the counselor models how to be authentic, to realize personal potential, and to make decisions with emphasis on mutuality, wholeness, and growth. So in this existential therapy, the counselor has to model how to be very genuine, very real, and the counselor has also to existentially realize his potentials or her potentials or his strength in the whole affair in counseling, and to make decisions with emphasis on the general welfare of this person. So you do not counsel, you don't counsel somebody outside the whole picture of that person. So you cannot isolate the social, political, spiritual dimension of a person. You cannot say, I'm just handling one dimension of a person or my client, according to existentialist school of counseling. The last one, existential counselors do not diagnose, nor do they use assessment models like others considered before. In other words, you better say like others considered before. Rather, they focus on existence. What you are to show, they want to indicate that your existence matters. What matters is your existence. So one can say if they don't do diagnosis, really it is like they push it back to you to rediscover yourself, to rediscover your existence. But as usual, the broad understanding of any counseling, it is to facilitate and not to make decision for anybody. Now, concerning goals, a goal of existential counseling is to have the clients take responsibility for their life and life actions or life decisions. You have noted that theirs is not to do the diagnosis. Rather, it is to make you take responsibility. So that now brings out the goal to make you take responsibility for whatever you do in existential therapy, existential counseling. Is all about you. It's your decision that you make that will communicate wonders. Now you may ask, then what is the role of a counselor? If at all the whole burden is, placed on the shoulders of the client, then what is the work? We can still reiterate without concluding this matter, because we still have time to reread, come with critiques. For all these theories, you still have a room for critiques. To say that responsibility is not something we can negotiate. Taking responsibility is a very critical point for everyone. Responsibility is important. Number two, a goal of existential therapy is to develop self-awareness, to promote potential freedom and commitment to better life choices. So this is a very critical goal, to make you, to encourage you, to promote your own commitment to bettering for the betterment of the choices a counselee, a client makes. The last one on goals. A major goal is to help the client develop an internal frame of reference as opposed to the outward one. So the issue is all about internal frame of reference as opposed to the outward. So when internally you able to reflect on your existence and the importance of your existence, a lot of positive things about to occur. The last section in this existential therapy or counseling, it is the most common technique used in existential counseling is the relationship with the client. Okay, so the relationship matters. It is not a question of you diagnosing anything, because that is not your work. It is to relate well and empower this person to discover his own or her own existence. Number B, confrontation is also used by existential counselors when they challenge the clients with their own responsibility for their lives. Okay? Confrontation is not necessarily shouting, but it is when the client is unable to rediscover himself or herself, is when the counselor may be in a more sharper way, or in a bit sharp way. The counselor can read this client to see an area in a bit tougher way, a bit, not tough, but a bit tough way, or tougher way, in a tougher way, to see where the rain could have started beating the client. Okay, hence drive the client to take responsibility. Everything is take responsibility. Taking responsibility is not negotiable. Now, coming to this other guy, or not guy, but school, Gestalt therapy or Gestalt counseling. We will keep talking about Gestalt as long as we are in this semester. It's more of an introductory semester. Of course, you look at some of these things in another dimension as you proceed, particularly those who pursue counseling line. You see us moving to one's area of specialty as we go on. You see next semester there will be changes somewhere. But because these are common units, all of them, the four of them, you still find this semester when we are in psychology, coming back to Gestalt School of Psychology. But there is also Gestalt counseling or Gestalt therapy. Yes, there's Gestalt therapy here. And let me just say that a Gestalt means a whole. And Gestalt therapy is based on the person feeling whole or complete in their life. Okay? Gestalt therapy is based on the person feeling whole or complete in their life. Now, Gestalt therapy is considered to be here and now therapy, focusing on awareness with the belief that when one focuses on what they are and not what they wish to become, they become self-actualized. So, it is all about when one focuses on what they are and not what they wish to become, they get to know themselves better. It's all about accepting the new me, accepting yourself, or accepting myself as I am, accepting my strengths and weaknesses, and working to improve the weaknesses, and boosting my strengths so that they don't die. So that's all about Gestalt therapy by Fritz Perls. Fritz Perls is one of the contributors. In psychology, we shall see the father of Gestalt School of Psychology, but in counseling, we are looking at the proponent of it in counseling, you call him counseling psychology, you call him Fritz Perls. So Gestalt believe that the individual naturally keeps or seeks to become an integrated whole, living productively. Now, Gestaltists I was saying that Gestaltists are anti-deterministic. Gestaltists are anti-deterministic because they believe that people have the ability to change and become responsible. So they are not for quick conclusions because they are not to determine anything for you. So they are anti-deterministic, not deterministic. They are not judgmental, in other words. Because how can they judge you, these Gestalt therapists or counselors led by Fritz Perls, how can they be conclusive? And how can they be judgmental when they already believe that people have the ability to change and become responsible? So it is never too late. It's never too late. So anybody can change his position. So they have a lot of optimism. Gestaltists have a lot of optimism in positive human behavior. Now, Gestalt borrows heavily from the viewpoint of existentialists, experientialists, and phenomenologists, with the emphasis on the present and awareness. So Gestalt focuses on the client's own inner world of interpretation and assessment of the present life situation. Another point, Gestaltists believe that individuals emphasize intellectual experience, diminishing the importance of emotions and senses, resulting in an ability to respond to the situations or events in their lifetimes. Gestaltists believe that thoughts, feelings, and reactions to past events or situations can impede personal functioning and prevent here and now awareness. So in other words, they are saying that that thoughts and feelings and reactions that focuses on the past pains or situations that were unpleasant to us, they can stop us from becoming fulfilled or moving forward. So for these Gestaltists, they are people who talk about taking responsibility, and you can see all counseling psychology tend to push responsibility to the client, but these ones are more direct. Okay, one, they don't determine for you, they make you make your own judgment. They are not quick to judge. Okay, so past events, if we entertain them too much, particularly the ones those events that are not productive, if they are emphasized too much, they prevent here and now awareness. They make you not move. You just start mark timing. So the most common unfinished business is that of not forgiving one's parents for perceived mistakes in one's parenting. So another thing they focus more on is you and your parents. If you cannot forgive your parents who mishandled you, who left you to the house girl, and the house girl mistreated you or didn't give you the right care, or any caregiver in infancy, if you don't forgive your parents for such mistakes, even the schools they took you, schools that messed you up. Yeah, there are those schools where even we are taught to pronounce very poorly. We have to fight very hard. And these problems keep following us, ricachando, because you are taken to a school where even pronouncing an English word, yeah, like feasibility study. Somebody's put it visibility study. You know, by the time you know it is feasibility study, my friend, you have written the wrong one, and that person doesn't correct you. Now, parents can be blamed for that. Parents may be blamed for poor mishandling. But the most common unfinished business is that of not forgiving one's parents for perceived mistakes in one's parenting. So, Gestaltists will tell you you must forgive your parents for any upbringing challenges and move on. They could have failed to provide funding for your education. So you got, the lowest quality. You kept getting on chased in and out of school. But if we don't forgive them, definitely you are in trouble. You put more trouble. And the English people say, don't trouble till trouble troubles you. The last point in Gestalt is view of human nature. You can see view of human nature. That's where we are. Gestalt is therapy or counseling. Awareness is considered on a continuum, with the healthiest person being most aware. These people are aware of their needs and deal with them one at a time. The emphasis on reality and not on embellished or imagined needs. Now, the individual recognizes their internal need and meets that need through manipulation of the need and the environment itself. So the point is, awareness is considered on a continuum, with the healthiest person being most aware. So when we are aware of our needs, we can easily deal with them one at a time, not haphazardly, not dealing with every challenge that befalls us. You can say, I'll start with this challenge, the next time I'll get on my other weakness and settle it one by one. And when we recognize our own internal needs and try and strive to meet that need through now manipulating the need and the environment, we are healed. Now, let me talk about the last point, actually the last. The difficulty may arise in several ways. There can be loss of contact with the environment and its resources. Number two, there is loss of contact with the self through over-involvement with the environment. Number three, we may fail to put aside unfinished businesses. The other one is loss, then Gestalt resulting in fragmentation or scattering. In other words, if we lose that responsibility, we get fragmented and scattered and disjointed and disorganized. The fourth one, experience conflict between what one should do and what one wants to do. Another difficulty that may arise in this Gestaltist therapy or counseling is experience difficulty with life's dichotomies. That is, love versus hate, pressure versus pain, masculinity versus femininity. Now, Concerning the role of a counselor, according to the Gestalt therapy or counseling, is the counselor creates an environment for the client to explore their needs in order to grow. Number B, the counselor is fully with the client in the here and now with intense personal involvement and honesty. 3, the counselor helps the client to focus on blocking energy and to positively and adaptively use that energy wisely. D, the counselor also helps the clients to discern life patterns. E, among the rules that counselors use to help clients. 1, the principle of the now requires the counselor to use present tense. Number 2, I and thou means that the client must address the person directly rather than talk about them or to the counselor about them. Number 3, the third rule that the counselor must use to help the client in Gestalt school of thought is making the client use the I instead of referring to own experiences in the second or third person tense. Number 4, the use of an awareness continuum that focuses on how and what rather than on why. Another rule that the counselor may need to use so as to help in order to help the client is to the counselor has the client convert questions into statements. Of course, there are quite a number of these goals. There are quite a number of activities that the Gestaltists may want to use or may prescribe, but we can just talk about a few of the roles that the counselor is supposed to have according to this school or this therapy. That one law is the counselor creates an environment for the client to explore their needs in order to grow. The counselor is fully with the client in the here and now with intense personal involvement and honesty. And the counselor helps the client to focus on blocking energy and to positively and adaptively use that energy. Oh my, I'm lost, eh? Well, my friends, tuko class, eh? Lower your voice, eh? Mnafanya nipotee kidogo. Asante. Thank you, karibu sana. Concerning the goals, there is emphasis on the here and now. We have noted that. Help the client resolve the past. Help the client get encouraged to make choices based on the now as opposed to the past. Number D, assist the client to become congruent. Help the client to reach maturity intellectually. Help the client shed neuroses. And the techniques include exercises that include activities such as frustration actions, fantasy role playing, psychodrama, experiments that are planned creatively and interventionally, and that grow out of the here and now interaction between the client and the counselor. Quite a number of activities or techniques that Gestaltists have. I don't want to get all of them there, but the last one I can talk about, exaggeration or dramatizing the client's gestures and movement to help gain insight into their meaning. Maybe this one where we have more drama is more close to African dramatic life, where you hear somebody trying to talk about how the animal like a cow, or or a monkey, sounds, it makes sounds in the forest, and you create, some of those dramatic, or if that is what it requires, or the goat, burrowing of a goat or something. Jumping on to this other one, Rational-Emotive therapy, that is RET, and view of human nature. RET assumes that the individual has the capacity to be completely rational, irrational, sensible, or crazy, which the proponents of this counseling therapy or rational-emotive therapy or relative emotional counseling, by name Albert Ellis, is that he believes it is biologically inherent. Some things are biologically inherent, and of course, when you dwell on biological things that are biologically inherent, that can also be very tricky, because you are coming back to genealogies, and that can also pose some challenge on the way. But Aries is most concerned with irrational thinking, especially that which creates upsetting or irrational thoughts. And Aries lists the most common irrational beliefs that clients find disturbing. And he says the following: it is absolutely essential to be loved or approved of by every significant person in one's life. 2, to be worthwhile, a person must be competent, adequate, and achieving in everything attempted. Some people are wicked, the way Aries sees it, bad. Some people are villainous, and therefore should be blamed or punished. Another point, Aries notes or lists of irrational beliefs that clients may find disturbing, that it is terrible and a catastrophe whenever events do not occur as one hopes. Another point, unhappiness is the result of the outside events, and therefore a person has no control over such despair. Another point he noticed, a person must depend on others and must have someone stronger on whom to rely on or to rely on. But you see, now the other danger with this point is when you rely on one big brother, the danger is it also has other effects, negative sometimes, okay, good and bad. But when I talk of negative, you can talk of over-reliance on somebody, and that over-reliance can also move towards killing your own self-confidence. It can, kill even sometimes your self-esteem when you want to talk of the big brother. Think of global counseling, okay? You tell a nation to rely on China for donation, or America or Bretton Woods. Now, will that country grow? Now, if you bring it down to our levels, down here in the grassroots, if you tell people in the village to have someone stronger, the one who helps us, a big brother, a big sister, that is good, then that is fine in Africa especially. But there is a danger of people not growing up, remaining crying babies, paradoxically babies and adults at the same time. Now, another point, without saying much, can't erase everything he has said. We have to leave somebody to now, as we move on towards the conclusion of this course. As I told you, next week people will have a break for the whole of next week as you work out your term paper. A person should be upset by the problems and difficulties of others. That is also very African and very good, that you are upset by problems and difficulties of other people. They can be disturbing. Very good. That is true. And it's also finding it disturbing, by the way. Aries is also finding it disturbing. That, in other words, he's also agreeing with us. It is dangerous. Yes. This is also saying the same thing as we are doing. And we can say he's very relevant to Africa, where, as I've noted, we rely on the stronger brother, stronger sister. We know, of course, we are used to the Almighty God, who is a court of appeal, who is a supreme court. But this trickles down to our fellow human beings, where certain individuals are the superior courts. They are the supreme courts in a village. We believe these people must have a solution to everything. Nobody has a solution to everything. And so it can be very disturbing when you are counseling somebody who has already developed or whose human nature, his nature, is relationally emotively geared towards certain operations or certain possessions, and they emotionally get hooked into that school of thinking. So it can be disturbing. All these things here is raising, they are very correct. So Aries sees the individual as being easily disturbed because of gullibility and suggestibility. Aries is a proponent of the individual thinking of their behavior as separate from their personhood. That is, I did a bad thing rather than I am a bad person. Okay? So he's seeing it as separate. Behavior is separate from the personhood. So you can do a bad thing, that's right, but you are not bad. So you can correct the bad thing, not necessarily correct the person. He's able to see the distinction. Normally we tend to bring them together. But Aries is able, in this rational-emotive therapy, he is able to push us, when we find ourselves counseling such cases, to distinguish between the bad thing and the bad person. Sometimes they can be different. You know, when somebody does a very bad thing, we start rationalizing and intellectualizing sometimes, and we find ourselves saying, no, this is schizophrenia or psychosomatic. We bring those vocabulary to say body and spirit and soul are not separate. So if he is bad, he had a bad idea, he's a bad person. No, some of these things Aries is trying to make us see, some of the errors that may now push us to the counselors could be by error or by default, and they may come once in a while. So nobody is not susceptible or is not in a position to go for counseling session. Okay, what is the role of a counselor now? Counselors, according to Aries and his counseling therapy, counselors are direct and active in their teaching and collecting the client's cognitions. Yes, they are thinking of the clients. They are direct and active in their teaching. That is where we personally identify with him when he talks of direct and active. Active, yes, but direct has a lot of implication. How can you go direct? Telling somebody, uza hii ng'ombe, uza hii mbuzi, my friend. Who made you a judge? Yeah, who made a judge? You a judge? No, it's always, what if you sell this cow? What if we do this, which is trampling us? What if we solve this division between me and you by doing this? Unless it's a hostile customer or friend or as a counselor who get more hostile and impede the process, it should not appear, in my view now, that the counselor as a direct is direct in teaching and correcting the counselor's thinking. That one, I have an issue with that bit. But we said nothing philosophical is without defects. Hakuna. There's no philosophical jargon or philosophical theory or any theory, counseling theory, historical theory, which may not be poked somewhere on the way. So Aries believes that a good RET counselor, we said it is all about rational-emotive therapist, RET counselor. Okay? Rational-emotive therapist. According to him, every RET counselor must be bright, knowledgeable. That is quite okay with me. If I'm told to critique Aries, I would say hapo tuakubaliana. Knowledgeable is good. And that is also what Plato said in his philosophy. Only philosopher king should rule the world. Only educated people should manage our affairs. Nairobi City needs a very learned person to manage it, not populists. Kenya needs a very knowledgeable person to manage it. A person who can draw a framework for the next 100 years. Forget about Vision 2030. Only educated people can see far. Not populists. No, not money bags. Only very educated people can draw the life of Kenyans for the next 200 years. Americans did theirs. They had the best brains. French did it. With the French Revolution came the French thinkers who came before it, people like Montesquieu, Voltaire, and others like those who are, I keep forgetting this guy, the constitutionalist theorist. So that to me, Aries has a point in his RET counseling. Yes, a good RET counselor, or counselor for that matter, not only a school of thought, has to be empathetic. Empathetic is not necessarily sympathetic, but a fellow who can listen, not a fellow who denies you a chance to talk. A person who understands where you are, so who understands and listens is an empathetic person. A person who is persistent, able to push a very good agenda, not in a dictatorial way, no, but in a bright way, in a knowledgeable way, in a scientific way. Yes, he says that person has to be scientific. So that person must fall within the new scientific, we are calling it the 21st century skills movement in education, which are punctuated by the use of science and technology, which is punctuated by joint researches, joint publication, joint curriculum mapping and drawing, many things, and also geared towards problem solving, particularly focusing on science and technology today. That is the modern education. So Aries would think of such a person who knows how to collaborate, who knows collegiality, how to remain a team builder, and a person interested in helping others and use RET therapy in their personal lives. The counselor does not rely heavily on the above noted DSM-4 categories. We don't want to get there. There is a goal there. The primary goal is to help people live rational and productive lives. Okay? And RET helps people, or this model by Aries helps people see that It is their thoughts and beliefs about events that create difficulties, not the event or situations themselves. This mode of counseling, RET therapy, I should call it RET counseling model or theory, RET helps the client to understand that wishes and wants are not entitlements to be demanded. Thinking that involves the wants, must, and should, ought, have to, and need are demands, not an expression of wants or desires. So the client need to understand that wishes and wants are not entitlements. That is good, because there are those people who even go for counseling because they are denying certain privileges. And privileges, they get a bit disturbed because privileges are cut. And such a situation in every school of thought is where maybe that's where he talks of confronting or getting direct. Anyway, when you tell the counselee or the clients that the privileges should not be your entitlements. When you're not appointed chairman in a board, that doesn't mean you fight the others. It is bad to fight those who are now leading. You are leading, yes, now other people are there. So Eris will tell you, please tell them direct that entitlement, wishes and wants are not entitlements. And so you should not fight or get so overly disturbed and depressed and stressed because privileges have been withdrawn. Know your parameters, know your boundaries, that kind of thing. But I still insist a counselor going direct to the clients can have negative repercussions. So it only comes when the clients get so wild and not able to stand together with others. Now, to end this on rational-emotive therapy, Eris tells us about these techniques. I wanted to leave it to you to consider them because it's not just me, but we are with you in this. So more now as we move on is to you now. You see, I'm changing the style. I'm just getting not the detailed I wanted to be because I know we have done the basics. This is now you now getting, on your own and push it. And so when you look at these techniques, the first few sessions are devoted to running the ABC principle. That is activating event, belief or thought process. Number 3, emotional consequences. Number B, is techniques. Cognitive disputation is aimed at asking the client questions, challenging the logic of the client's response. Now, number C is imaginal disputation, has the client's use of imagery to examine a situation where the client becomes upset. The technique is used in one or two ways, such as the client imagines the situation, examines the self-talk, and then changes the self-talk, leading to a more moderate response. The client imagines a situation in which they respond differently than is habitual and are asked to examine the self-talk in this imagery. There is also the emotional control card, which is an actual card intended for the client to carry in their wallet, which has a list of inappropriate or self-destructive feelings countered with appropriate non-defeating feelings. And in a difficult situation, the client has this reference card on their person to help them intervene in their own self-talk. So it is a question of helping the client. It is a question of intervening rather, and that is helping. That is still facilitating. The voice of facilitation is still there. whatever method you go in counseling psychology, you find the counselor remains an interventionist, not necessarily the person diagnosing or finding the final solution. Of course, they go together. I read the last one. I say that confrontation occurs when the counselor challenges an illogical or irrational belief that the client is expressing, while encouragement involves explicitly urging the client to use RET rather than to continue self-defeating responses. In other words, you are reminding the counselor, the client, please be rational. In your emotions, be rational. Even if you are emotional, be rational. The rational has to do with thinking now. So it's a question of don't just respond without being rational. Rational here is brought to mean reason out or think through, even if you have your emotions that has brought you here in this office or in your office on the client, the counselor's office. Use some reason. Yes, don't just continue self-defeating responses. No, that are not rational enough. Okay, rationalize, intellectualize a bit. Okay, think through what you are saying, you, the client. Yeah, don't just respond or just swear you're going to do this. No. Just be thinking, though we are not cutting your emotion. Emotions are human, but it's not too much if they are controlled by rationalization. It is going to work wonders. Think through whether you are emotional, do something. Don't just continue in self-defeating responses. Maybe that is the far we should go, and maybe comment a bit if we have to.